This is LSU tight end Mason Taylor.
What if the most average looking tight end was actually really good? I think that's where I'm at with Mason Taylor, where initially I was kind of figuring out what exactly makes him a top 50 overall prospect. And then the more I watched, the more I appreciated what he's doing. To me, the thing that really stands out with him is his smoothness. And I think he's a little bit underrated in a straight line. And I saw that the most on these out routes near the first down marker, which is like the staple of playing tight end in the NFL. He was consistently picking up the first down. And I've watched so many tight ends in the NFL where they're fighting for that first down marker and they just do not have the speed to get there. And I think that Mason Taylor can actually turn the corner.
What I've been doing with all these prospects is starting back in 2023 and then watching all their targets from 23 to 24. And yes, I know that Jane Daniels was his quarterback and he was playing around, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, and all these other guys. But the switch flipped so hard for him in between those two seasons that it was stunning how different of a player that I saw out there and the impact that he was making. Like, I don't know if he broke a single tackle after the catch in 2023. And then in 2024, with his first catch, albeit against your USC Trojans, he breaks a tackle for a gain of 13 yards. I thought he had some drops, hands issues in 2023. And then the ball tracking, I felt, really improved in 2024. So what we've kind of seen over the last two seasons is this upwards trajectory for Mason Taylor. And at that, he's just about to turn 21 years of age. He's the son of Hall of Famer Jason Taylor. And to me, those are the points that any NFL draft room is going to say and point out of the big positives of why he'll be a good NFL player.
Yeah, he's got functional size, 6'5", 250. I think that his acceleration that I talked about is maybe a little bit underrated with him. And I think that his hands turned out to be very reliable. And the way that LSU was using him last year was not on any of the Mickey Mouse gadget stuff that some other tight ends get. He's just like out there winning on like the routes that you'll see on Sundays. He had caught 55 passes. Only 6 of them came on the screens this last year. You can see him in the slot. You can definitely see him in line. You can move him around a little bit as well. He runs all the routes to me. He has enough speed to run a little bit of the intermediate and downfield routes as a changeup. But like I said at the top, I really think that his underneath work and just kind of fighting for that first down yards after the catch wise in that 5 to 15 air yard range, to me is going to be his calling card. I think that he's going to be somebody that you're going to want to motion out into the slot against mismatches and stuff as well. So initially I was like, man, he just seems like he's too average at everything. But I was like, he's just consistently making plays and then on occasion will make a couple acrobatic plays up the seam.
So we talked about this in the profiles for Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren. By the way, hopefully you're subscribed and watching all of those on the channel as well, that this tight end position can be a traits-based approach. Again, he is 6'5", 251 pounds. He's the first one that we have a nearly like complete athletic profile for, and probably will be the only one of the top 3 tight ends that has that to his name. A 4.68 40-yard dash, which is the 64th percentile, 52nd percentile 10-yard split, an awesome 3-cone at 7.06, bench press at 95th percentile at 28 reps. But then, the shuttle is really, really bad in the 10th percentile at 4.54. So while I would say he's an above average athlete, I would not put him into the great to elite athlete tier. And that might like cap his ceiling here a little bit. But again, the age is very, very low. I like what you said about, to me, when I watched him with Jane Daniels, there's a whole bunch of split flow action where they would get him on those Evan Ingram type routes across the formation, make him catch it, and then get out in space. But the next season, it really was a lot more like option routes versus linebackers, sinking your hips to create that separation on those outside breaking routes. And then if they start sitting on that, he would easily, I thought, work behind them and like run the seam past them too and make some nice, again, ball tracking situations. I would not call him like a physical separator in the way that like Tyler Warren is at the top of like pushing off and creating that sliver of separation. Even I thought Colson Loveland had a bit more of that. But at the same time, he is so freaking fluid. And just this change of direction laterally really stood out to me, that you can see how if an NFL team wants to incorporate certain routes with him, they know the specific ones that he is going to shine at and maximize in those situations.
And some of that physicality, I think, right now is kind of a weakness in the blocking department. I was kind of underwhelmed, like compared to like the bench press reps and just like the family lineage that we're talking about here. He just plays a little bit too upright. I think that's maybe something like technique wise that he can just get better. And obviously, when you're talking about somebody that was 20 years old against SEC competition, you're going to have some worse blocking reps than some of the other tight ends that we're talking about who are either playing worse competition or a little bit older. So I think he'll get better there. He's got enough, I think, size to project him as an inline guy, can stay out there in 11 personnel. So I'm not like worried about playing time with Mason Taylor early on his career or long term whatsoever. But it's something that I think that is right now more of a weakness than a strength for him. Just gonna throw out a couple comps for you. Hunter Henry's the one that I kept coming back to, and I've seen this from some other people as well. We're not talking about exceptional athlete, but somebody that's very fluid, very reliable, and I mean he's still starting in the NFL a decade later. Pat Fryermuth, someone more of like the move style in recent draft classes, and I think at the very, very, very least, you're getting like that Dalton Schultz type of tier player here who's turned into a reliable receiving option. I think that he has more juice in terms of creating first downs than Dalton Schultz does, but I see him as a top 50 pick. I ended up putting him 39th in my top 100. It's not the greatest draft class, but I'd be pretty surprised if he's not an early second round pick right now.
Yeah, I would have again loved him to break a few tackles in one-on-one situations a bit too often. It was just one guy left or one guy for
Mhm.
like a 20 plus yard gain, and shoestring tackles, low tackles just being brought down quite easily in those situations. But again, this is something that we talk about that like year 3, year 4 with these tight ends, that's when they feel comfortable. He'll only be about 23, 24 years of age at that time. Again, I'm bringing up all like the parts of his profile that aren't necessarily on the field. But so often to me, tight ends become that. Like that's what their, again, evaluation is. And that's the pitch that all these coaches are going to have say, just wait until our guy that's aging, and then we can make him the focal point of our tight end
Yep.
room a couple years down the line. And yeah, like you said, the distribution of targets, like 9 targets on the outside, 40 in the slot, 35 when he was in line or attached to the line of scrimmage. Now, the production wasn't massive, 546 yards this year on 55 catches, 348 the year before on 36 grabs. But it was one of those that like the more you watched, the more you can see the vision and the more that he just like simply looks like an NFL
Yeah.
tight end on the field.
And back as his true freshman in 2022, I mean, he caught 38 passes for 400
Yeah.
yards. Like we're talking about a very
To
good
be honest, he
offense.
kind of filled in for like Jack Besh when
He
Besh
did.
transferred and filled like the exact same role that Besh was playing in this offense.
Yeah, he really did. But like my main takeaway there is even though the production is not crazy, starting as a freshman at tight end at LSU is like
Right.
a humongous compliment. I just don't want to overlook that.
Yeah, and I think he stayed on a string, especially with his quarterback. I think it's Nussmeier
Yeah.
in 2024, like did a really good job on this second phase of plays. He came down with some really big sideline or toe tapping catches when he was able to stay with his quarterback
Mhm.
on those scramble drill plays, and that's going to be a pretty big deal for him as well.
Yeah.
He's my tight end 3.
Yeah, my tight end 3. I think it's a kind of like tiered, like each guy is kind of in their own tier to me. And the next guys I think have a lot of potential that we're going to get to. But he's just like to me so obvious about what I'm signing up for.
Yep, totally. All right. That does it for us. Once again, we have so many prospect profiles on the channel. So before you go away, hit that subscribe button, leave a thumbs up, and click the next video. We'll see you there.